your host, Adnan Ali, with another exciting and amazing personality with us today. And today, we have Freda Liu, all the way from Malaysia. She's an author, media personality, journalist, TEDx speaker, involved in social causes. Farida is a vibrant persona who has lived and breathed business in the past decade with Malaysia's only business radio station and has conducted more than 5,000 interviews. And some prominent names like Martin Cooper, author Stephen Covey, motivational speaker Nick Vijucic, former GE CEO Jack Welch, the Duke of York, Prince Andrew, to Wikileaks founder Julian Assange. At BFM, the radio station, her show Enterprise provides the tools to help businesses succeed, covering topics with startup scenes, personal development, technology to organizational development, while her Vantage talk about women to leadership and influence to showcase women's representation in all strata of society from sports, arts, science to entrepreneurship. Farida has authored 5 books called PR Yourself, Shake and Spare Your Business, The Romeo and Juliet Way, and Everybody Loves Ray, her biography, Busting Fixed Mindsets, and her latest, In Your Skin. She has also contributed to The Star, one of the leading English newspapers. She was recently awarded the ASEAN Rice Bowl Awards for Malaysia Startup Journalist of the Year and nominee for Social Enterprise Journalist. Farida is a member of National Association for Women Entrepreneurship Malaysia and Malaysian Association for Professional Speakers. So the list goes on, and I can speak for hours about her introduction, but it's better that we speak with her and get to know more about her. Thank you so much, Farida, for joining us all the way from Malaysia. We really appreciate your time and welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you. I was tired of listening about myself.
Great. We're honored to have you. A lot to learn from you, from your experiences. Tell us, how's life in Malaysia during these COVID times? How's situation right now?
Okay, so it's improved tremendously. So now we're on this slow path of opening up the market. It's just about a couple of days ago. Businesses are slowly coming in with strict SOPs. We have a brilliant Director General of Health, and he has been handling this so well. So, and I have to say the Malaysians were quite well behaved, So we're just making sure things are happening now. Hotels are opening, restaurants are opening, but being very careful.
Great. Hopefully everything will be back on track and we will defeat this COVID-19 soon as a world together. Farida, anything which we don't know, which people don't know about you, which is not there on your profile, so please share with us, with our audience.
Oh, okay. I don't know if it's in my profile, but a bit of background. I was born in Brunei. My father used to work for Shell as in an oil company. So I spent the first 14 years of my life there. When my father retired, I went back to Sarawak, which is part of Borneo, which is part of Malaysia. So I spent a couple of years there as well and started my life. My first job was a receptionist at the Hilton in Kuching. And I worked there for a year before pursuing my studies, coming up to Kuala Lumpur, study in Australia. But yeah, so that's the history of me growing up. Everything else, I guess if you go to LinkedIn, you'll see a lot about my history. I used to work for IBM. I used to work for Edelman. And when these were my full-time jobs, my part-time job was a TV and radio newsreader before I joined BFM as a host.
So you joined BFM as a host full-time. Why you left your corporate world and joined a world which is, like kind of shaky initially? You don't know what is your future. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I know. So when I left BFM, I left IBM, right? What I did was also, it was a 30% pay cut. Everything didn't make sense. 30% pay cut, but it was so exciting because we didn't have a business radio station, right? It was an independent station. And it was a job that allowed me to continue learning, right? Because I was interviewing business people. It wasn't just a music station. And I thought it'd be something that I could learn. And if it didn't work out, it was a business experience that if I want to go back to corporate, it was not wasted experience, right? So that was the reason I decided to join. And so there was a calling, right? I think it was just a change in what I wanted to do, a culmination of having worked in corporate, a culmination of having worked in broadcasting, coming together to do something. And because it was a startup 11 years ago, an opportunity to create something as well, right? Which is the show that we've got right now. So, so that was very fulfilling, and I've been there for the last 11 years. So yes, pay cut willingly and did this.
Wow, you took a risk and it paid off you tremendously, I must say. That's great.
Well, job satisfaction.
Great, great. It's not all about money. Yeah, I mean, you have a
No,
job satisfaction, something which you
it
love,
should
something
never
you're
be about money.
absolutely, absolutely, something which you're passionate about. And why not
Yeah.
the entertainment industry? There was like radio shows with music and all that. Why a very specific business
Oh,
related?
okay. I love music. I do, and we have great music where I'm working as well. But it was just I didn't see my future in that industry, in that space, right? That was it. Some people have a natural inclination towards that. I don't think so. I didn't see where that could progress for me career-wise, right? In an entertainment station, music, just if it's just music. But I saw that there was something that it was a great. If I work in a business radio station, it was a great stepping stone to whatever. I just feel that that's the case, right? And it just opens the doors because you talk to so many people, you meet so many people, you learn so much more. And I've done the survey done. What's that? The Gallup survey, where you talk about your strengths finder, right? And one of the things one of the strength value for me is learning. That's a very important aspect. My top 5 values, one of this is learning. So that is one thing that always drives me. If I stop learning, then I always think, like, okay, where's the future here? So until the station doesn't give me a reason to grow anymore, then I guess I will move on to something that will allow me to grow further.
Wow, wow. You mentioned about your 5 values, and one of them
Yeah,
is learning. And
yeah.
if someone has that value inclinated in them, learning, they're always growing, they're always shining, and they're always inspiring. And we can see it from your profile, the way you're inspiring the world. What are your other values apart from learning? The other
Okay.
4
The
values.
other thing was actually harmony, and harmony, and as in. It wasn't so much like I want world peace. Of course, I do want world peace, but it was more like how everything should happen. There should be harmony in what you do, right? When you do this, there's this harmony and connectedness. That was another value, that everything connects, and that even my like we're all called to do different things, and that's why I wrote the last book, In Your Skin, because we tend to compare and say, why is this person like this? Why is this person like this, right? But we're not called to be certain things. And when you come to that realization that you're not called to be certain things, I'm part of this puzzle in this world to fit something, right? And it all connects. When I go to work, when I go to work and I interview someone, I always feel that, okay, my job is to bring out that story. And if my audience, one person listens to it and has learned something from it, then I've done my job, right? And I have been called to do this. And I look back in my life and I realized that was actually always been my calling, in a sense, to be able to connect, to be able to bring out the stories in people, is something that I truly enjoy.
Great. And you did the Gallup Strength Survey. For people out
Yeah.
there who right now feeling that they are misfit, they're not using their potential to their best, and they are just going around like they're doing just like a sleepwalk. What's your advice to them? Should they go and take that survey as well?
Okay, take that survey, but they're also take that survey for one thing, to understand yourself, right? But the other thing for me was actually, I actually, other than doing the survey, have taken up a course in design thinking, right? Okay, so this is again something completely different. I love it. And in design, and one of the books that I actually have been reading is called Design Your Life, right? And it's developed, this book was written by two professors from Stanford University, and they use the concept of design thinking as you would with a product or a service and apply it to your life, right? And it's called prototyping, where you try something and you say, okay, it doesn't suit me, then I move on to the next thing. It's not a failure, right? And you may not necessarily have to give up your job to try and experiment with something new, right? It could be taking up a course, it could be talking to someone who's in the industry and learning more about the industry, or if you're in between roles and say, no, can I volunteer here so that I can understand the industry? There are many ways of doing it, right? So you can fulfill these things without actually having to leave your job, right? And it doesn't have to be about money. It could be that hobby that you do on the side as well that meets that need, right? So I feel that you don't have to be like, you don't have to give up everything to try something new, right? And you take these little small steps.
You mentioned about that book that talks about the design thinking. Can you please elaborate more on that? What is design thinking? What are the structures that we need to follow? So please share your experience with design thinking.
Okay. So I'll just share with you some of the bigger principles, right? So one of the things, I think the big one is called your prototyping, right? You know, when we talk about products, right, we don't know whether the product works or not, so we prototype, right? So if you look at your job and your life as a prototype, and you just say, I want to try something new, you know, I was just listing out the things that I have experimented with in the last, all my working career, and I've done about 12 things, right? Apart from my job, but I've done 12 things that have helped me to be where I am today. When I was, you know, I've done things like as manual as stuffing envelopes when I was at university, right? Okay, understand. Then looking at it, understanding, right? Okay, this is what happens when you don't have an education. This could be a job if you don't have education. When I was 18 years old and I was working at the Hilton, right? I also had a part-time job as a choral singer for the state choir. Right? So at 18 years old, you learn, okay, so this is not, and I knew that I wasn't going to pursue a life as a singer, right? I enjoy it. But in that period of learning singing, I learned breath work, right? So you learn how to do that during interviews, you learn understanding how to, you know, make sure that you control your voice. During singing, we are also told to pronounce our words properly, to enunciate our words, right? And that helped me when I was newsreading, right? So everything sort of connects when you look back. And even in that time when we had to sing on the stage, I was on a stage with, you know, maybe 60, 70 other people, but that was the first experience of coming on a stage. So when you try little things and you say, wow, that all helped me, not directly, indirectly, but it's also your perspective of how you want to look at things. Right? So prototyping could be something like this, right? You just try something out and see if that's really you or not you. I've also tried things which didn't work out for me, you know, which is fine, right? Like I said, you know, I tried crossing, I love it, but I didn't think I wanted to pursue a career as a singer.
Right. So everything connects. Whatever you are doing in your life, it definitely helps you to achieve your ultimate goal, which is there in your life. And for you, it was maybe writing, for speaking with the people, inspiring the world, and writing books and doing social works as well. You are also into, you know, like I've seen your profile, you're also very much active as a physical person. So what keeps you going to do all those marathons and all that? Please share your experience.
Okay, I've done one marathon, right? I run a lot, but the full marathon of 42 kilometers one time is all I need. I enjoy it because and when I travel, I run. So I go to these different countries, and when you run, you just see things differently on the road as you would be on a tour bus or what have you, right? So it's just a great experience of mingling with the locals and understanding that. But on a daily basis, I work out, right? I work out because it gives me energy, it gives me endorphins, it makes me, you know, it gets the day right. You know, as whatever tension, negativity, you know, just get it out, you know, and then just feel refreshed when you first start the day. So that's important to me. You know, and one of the things that I'm learning at the moment is it's like, if you don't invest in your health now, you won't see the effects today. But in 10 years, you'll see the effects of not having worked out, right? And 10 years, blink of an eye, right? You know, 2010 was 10 years ago.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
but it just happened. Yeah, but it, you know, it just in the blink of an eye, if you don't take care of yourself, you're going to see the repercussions down the road.
That's great. For people like me who are couch potatoes, I don't know, like how we can motivate ourselves, and any advice on that? I mean, how
Hmm.
we inspire ourselves to do that, to
Okay.
go and sweat out there and on the jogging track and or walk or whatever.
Okay. So this is Ariana Huffington. She talks about micro steps. Can you do 10 minutes?
Uh-huh.
Right? Just do 10 minutes, right? And just do, then you say, 10 minutes, oh, it happens so quickly. And it just builds up, you know. So me, it's also, for 10 years ago, I didn't exercise, right? I didn't exercise at all, but it was just like, okay, small steps. And don't try to think about the marathon, because even the marathon took me 5 years of exercising before deciding that I wanted, 5 years of running before deciding I wanted to do it, right? But it starts with the 10K, the half marathon before I did the full marathon. So just let's start with 10 minutes, right? Because you know the Eisenhower decision matrix, right? The one where it says urgent, not important, important, you know, that decision matrix, right? So if there's one part that says important, not urgent. And your health is important. And so you want to work on your health so that you'll never get to urgent.
Yeah, exactly. So what changed you? 10 years ago, you said that you were not into sports and you were not an athlete. What has triggered inside of you that like motivated you, to inspired you to do that?
It always has to have some trigger point. I think also you realize that you're getting older, one thing. The other thing was actually, it was, I think, a wake-up call to life, right? A wake-up call to life. I had just gone through the almost the end of my marriage, and you always question yourself, right? And you go through this period. It was a terrible period, and I do talk about it because I don't want it to be something that people be hush hush about. And in that moment when that happened, I prayed to God and I asked God, get me out of this as a better person, not a bitter person, right? And that is one of my mantras, right? Whatever let me be, and I had no idea what better meant, right? And I look back and I think that also in that situation, there was no control, right? I can't control another person. I can only control myself, right? We've heard all that. What can I control? I can control my fitness. I can improve my relationship with God. I can try to improve my relationship with my son. I can improve my relationship with my friends. So these were things that I had control. And when you've got confidence in these little things, and you get a little bit braver, and you do a little bit more, And I look back and that, because I didn't know what better meant, right? And then, although the situation did not change, my perspective changed. And I think that was important to me. And it
Wow.
didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen overnight.
Wow. You mentioned it very rightly that like with the experiences of your life, you should become better rather than bitter. And
Mm.
your experiences has made you a better person rather than a bitter person. But we've seen people who are turning into a very bitter soul, with some bad experiences, or like some relationship breakdowns, or losing their businesses or whatever. They are not that uh, like soft, or feeling empathy or compassionate about people. Why is it so, and why you turn into a better person and other people's turn into better person? Any perspective on that? Any idea on that?
Mm. And that was exactly it, looking at all the people I know who are bitter and seeing how they live their life, So was it Nelson Mandela, or was it Gandhi? But Mandela, drinking poison, expecting someone else to die,
Oh, wow.
right? Right? And so it was like, this is it. This is bitterness. you're drinking the poison, but you're thinking someone else is, and I don't want to live like that, right? And you can see it on your face, you can see it in your demeanor, right? And it's not a life to live externally, and then internally when you're not happy, right? That's going to come out. That's going to, because if I'm bitter, that will translate into my relationships with colleagues, my son, friends. So I knew that that was not a place I want to be. I'm not complete, you know what I mean? Like, I'm very wary of it, you know, like when I get into this mood, right? Where I'm only human. I'm not, you know, I'm only human when you get down on that path. One of the things that I actually did was NLP, right? And NLP talks about having an anchor, right? And I think important in life, you must have an anchor, whatever strengthens you, right? It's different things to different people. For me, my anchor is my faith. And that is the most important thing, right? Whatever, everything that is taken away, what have you, if you don't have that anchor to hold you, that's not going to strengthen you. That's one thing. The other thing that you learn in NLP is reframing, right? Reframing a situation, right? And changing the words to it, right? For example, I could, if I had, you know, in that particular situation, I could have used so many ways of framing it, right? I could say, oh, but he's a horrible person, and just put the blame, right? And when you blame someone, you then become a victim and you don't take ownership of the situation. So when you want to take control of the situation, you take ownership of the situation and reframe it, right? Everything can be reframed. Everything can be, you know, turned around. The situation will not be changed, but your perspective changes. And that's the most important thing. The only thing that can control you is here. You know, Viktor Frankl talks about it. The 6 inch, well, no, the 6 inches between your ear, the decision to react or to respond. And I choose to respond rather than to react. So I've read all these books, attended all these seminars. I've decided to put it into practice.
So reading does really help?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You know, and so reading does help. And when I look at buying books, right, it's also different points in my life and different things I'm interested in. There are the what books, like the what books is like, what's design thinking all about, right? And sometimes I go into, but why are people behaving this way? And I like reading Dr. Henry Cloud. Dr. Henry Cloud is a brilliant business consultant, but also a very, he puts a personal perspective to it, right? So I like reading that. And sometimes you go into a how book. Okay, I know all these things. How should I do certain things? So these are the, you know, the kind of thought process when I'm in a particular position. I'll go to a bookstore and then something will speak to me and I'll pick up a book and read it.
Great. What kind of books are you can recommend to our audience, and what kind of books really inspires you? And you know, like you mentioned about a couple of those, which what and how. But other than that, what are your favorites? If you name some of them and recommend it to our
Okay.
audience.
Sure. They're right in front of me. Actually, I've got a whole library here. I would definitely recommend the Design Your Life book, right? I can't remember the authors right now. Written by two, unless you want me to wait and get it. Wait,
Yeah. Please come and get it for us. So friends, books are really important. They teach us a lot about our life, and it's not about just paper. It's about someone's experience who has gone through life and who has devoted their life in a particular subject. Either it's design thinking, either it's emotional intelligence, or whatever. I mean, maybe biographies as well. So yes,
Okay.
Farida.
One of the books that's upstairs is Carol Dweck's book called Mindset. You know that one called Fixed Mindset and Growth Mindset. So that's an important book as well. Whether you have a, you know, choose, obviously, you know, having a growth mindset, but what does it take to have a growth mindset? You know, so that's one very important book. The other book that this is their second book. It's called Designing Your Work Life, but their first book was called Designing Your Life. Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, right? So that's
okay,
Bill Burnett
and Dave Evans. Okay, great.
So this is their second book. So it's about designing your work life. So it talks about reframing. I'll read you something here where, you know, you can, okay, I'll give you one. Here's a dysfunctional belief. For example, I'm not good at maths and I'm never going to get better. There are a bunch of things I can't do, and there are people who are far more talented than I am. I'm stuck with my abilities and I can't get better. So way match to whatever situation you may be. A reframe is that's your fixed mindset talking, and it's not telling you the truth. The truth is, with a growth mindset, a lot of hard work and practice, you can probably accomplish almost anything you set your mind to. Talent isn't the reason other people are doing so well. They're working hard to get better, right? So it's words that you say to yourself, right? And I know, like, when I'm saying certain things, I'm like, oh, that is a statement that is not helping me to, instead of saying I can't do this, maybe a question to say to yourself is, how can I do it, right? And when you say, how can I do it, you start thinking, oh, perhaps I could do this, perhaps I could do this, perhaps I could. You get into solution mode. So the other book that I really liked was a book for women. It's called Playing Big. It's by Tara Moore, right? So this one was really insightful for me in terms of how women think, right? And it's written by an American woman, but it's amazing how these are the issues for me out here in Asia as well. So the things that hold women back, you could be in America, you could be in the UAE, you could be in Malaysia. It seems to be a constant, right? And one of the things there she talks about is the good girl syndrome. So the good girl syndrome is that girls generally do better in school, right? They do very well in school, right? And so when you go to school and you pass your homework to the teacher put an A+ in your paper and says, A for effort, right? Well done. So you're getting the recognition. Now in the workplace, there is no, when you submit your project to your boss, A+, right? So you don't get there. The boss may appreciate you, right? But he or she is not your teacher, right? So until you take ownership that you've done well and stated the fact, and you have to be your best advocate because no one else will, right? So school is not the same as work, but the good girl syndrome is still in school, right? So understand that you have to be your best advocate. Great. And women are not as vocal about talking about themselves.
You mentioned this book is about the women thinking, so I believe it's a good read for the men as well.
Sure. Yes.
You mentioned about that experience of bitter and better, and you gave your own life experience as well about your marriage life and how you come up with this and how you overcame this. In Asia, especially when, females, they went through that experience, that traumatic experience. For them, it's like end of life. For society, it's also like end of life. There is nothing, it's a big
taboo.
Taboo, exactly for them. So for girls out there, for, even for male or female, what would be your advice?
I think it's okay. It's so common nowadays, right? I mean, first thing, of course, I say, it feels like end of the world, and you think it's what society thinks and all that, but really, you realize you're not the only one. A lot of people are going through it, and when I have been given this platform and I talk about it and make it okay that you will get out of it, I think it should give hope for other people as well, right? There's this thing, when you were young and then you were afraid of going to sleep because you're afraid there are monsters under your bed, right? When your father or mother comes in and shines a light under the bed and says, see, there's no monster, right? And so we have to shine a light on these things, right? Otherwise, it's just hush hush. I think it's more important what you do after the fact. I never asked for this, but what do you do then? Right? And actually, I also talk to a lot of women about, being prepared, right? For a situation, life can happen, right? I mean, if it's not a divorce, a death could happen, right? What then are you doing to prepare yourself so that you'll always be financially independent? So, it's nothing to be embarrassed about, because it's not something you want to achieve, but it's also, I think, more important what happens to, what do you do to pick yourself up after that? That's more important.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'll give you an example from my country. Like I'm living right now in UAE, but I'm from Pakistan. And in Pakistan, I've seen women, like they are not all, but yes, there is certain segment of society where they are suffering because they don't have the financial independence, and because of that they are spending their whole life getting mental torture, physical torture, abuses and all that, just because like they're relying on their male partner for that. So
Right.
financial independence for female is very important in this era where we are living, where like where your daughters and your sisters, if they feel like they're in an abusive relationship with their husbands and spouses, then they they're not there because, okay, they cannot go back to their parents home because no one is there
Mm,
to support them.
mm.
So I mean, in your own capacity, Farida, being you are a social worker as well, and I know you are working for Vision World where you are sponsoring the kids. How Malaysian society is coping up with that by, like these female empowerment, especially.
Okay. So we're similar in a lot of ways, right? I mean, I don't think it's even an Asian issue, right? It is a global issue as well, a secular society, where it's cultural, and how do you address that? Because we also have situations like this here as well. Um, and I can only advise for women to always be financially independent, even if you're busy taking care of your kids, right? To actually have a source of income, whether it's part-time or something. There's technology right now, start a business online, what have you, right? And get some, so that like when, for example, a lot of women quit their work here in Malaysia, and then to take care of their kids, and then when they try to go back to work, sometimes it's not the skills they've lost the confidence because they feel that they've been away for a long time. So by just doing something that you're still dabbling with what's going on, you have that choice, right? Understand also that your children will grow up. I have a 17-year-old son, right? And he is going to go out and do his own thing, and he's not going to need his mama anymore, right? Understand that that's going to happen, right? You love your kid, but in 10 years time he's going to grow up and be independent, right? And then what, right? So like when you're bringing up that question, there's also that society expectations. You are a woman, you have to do this, you have to do that, right? So I'm of the belief, I understand the role but I also feel that that message of raising children is the equal responsibility of both spouses. That is important, and not women should do this, men should do that. Other than breastfeeding, the men can do everything just as much. Now, if this is so difficult to change right now, you as a mother, what are you doing with your children? How are you perpetuating that? Okay, because you still see that even though you don't like it, and then yet you treat your son better than your daughter. So you don't like this treatment, but you are continuing with that behavior, right? So if you can't stop it at your level, stop it at the next generation. Teach your kids, men, boys and girls are equal. Okay, other than breastfeeding, it's also the responsibility. So you can also teach that, right? Now, are you willing to do that? I don't know, right? And that's where financial independence is so important, right? So when everything crumbled, at least I was financially independent. Then you have choices.
Great, great. And financial independence, and as you mentioned now, businesses has become more easy because of online, like because of
Yes,
the internet. You can put
yes,
your channel, you can have your YouTube channel, you can have something that you are maybe stitching at home. You'll have the platforms to sell them. You
yes,
don't need a marketplace. It's everything
yes,
is there, accessible.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I've seen girls, like now they're doing these cooking shows and they're earning money because of that. They're
right?
like they're good in cooking, that they can do it. If you
Yeah,
can, like if you have an artwork that you can do, you can place it on these platforms, internet platforms. So yes, the the opportunities are there. So you don't
yes.
have to rely on one person for a particular job. As you mentioned,
Mm,
that even one person, for God bidden, like your partner can, like pass away as well.
yeah,
Then what you can do? So rather than, like getting that nudge and all that, be ready before that. And yes,
yeah.
that's a great advice. um, I was going through your profile, and one thing that I liked about was the you talking about the wheel of life,
Mm,
uh, which was a very great and interesting top concept for me to understand and to to explore more. Can you please elaborate on that
Oh,
for
I
our
love
audience?
it. I love it. So this is something I learned ages ago and finally put to practice the last 10 years as well. So the wheel of life is, you can go online, you can search for it, right? And sometimes it's 8, sometimes it's 10, but the main ones are actually, it's easier with the faith, fitness, friends, finance, different from career, uh,
Family,
family, yes, I forgot about that. Growth,
learning,
personal
yeah,
growth, and fun, right?
fun.
You also have to schedule fun. It
So
is also an important, yeah,
lots of effort there, yeah.
yeah.
Fun,
See,
family, friendship.
friends, yeah, fitness, finance, right? So every year when I look at the wheel of life, I set little goals in this wheel of life, right? And some things may be like more takes more, depending on what life stage I'm in, takes more precedence over the other. Right now it's about career and finance for me, right? When my son was younger, it was all about him, right? For about 6 years, when he was younger, when he was born until he was 6, I was working at IBM at the time, and I purposely chose a regional job that allowed me to work from home, right?
Oh, that's
So I was
great.
still financially independent, but I wanted a job, and my career goal at the time was keep job.
Yeah, yeah.
Do good enough to keep the job, right? I wasn't looking for any career progression because I was just making sure that he was my priority at that point, but I still kept the job, right? So understand these life stages at different point in life. The moment he's like 7 in school, it's different, his needs are different. Now he does not want, doesn't need me at all in that sense. But I knew that from zero, I needed to spend that time, and knowing that in 10 years, he will have his own life, right? So this is what I do, right? So that was the goal then when he was younger. The goals change as you get older. You have different priorities. The reason why I do this is because you always, even though it's as simple as see mom, spend time with mom, that you're conscious about it. Because if you put your effort only on your career and you're successful in your career, you make all the money, and you turn back and say, hey, where's my family? You're right. You forgot to spend time with your family. So what's the point, right? So you be conscious that that is a goal that you actually put aside, right? I mean, like one of the reasons with the breakdown in the marriage, I think I didn't focus on relationships, on my relationship, right? I like to blame it on him, but I have to take ownership that where am I to blame as well, right? Sometimes the focus is so much on the son, you forget the father. That's also very dangerous.
Wow, that's so great that you've looked at it from like not just that putting blame on others, but take
Yeah,
responsibility as well, which
yeah,
is very great.
yeah.
Which is very great. It's a growth mindset. It's not a fixed mindset, because fixed mindset always put fingers on others. That yes, the society, parents, husband, kids,
Mm,
like
mm,
whatever, and I'm the only one who is a victim of everything which is happening around me.
right.
You mentioned about in the wheel of life that yes, there are certain areas where we focus more, and there are certain areas where we put our attention less. Like, for example, if
Mm,
someone is very involved in a business, but they forget about the family and all that.
right. Or
What's
fitness.
or fitness? Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
right.
So how to do that? I mean, how to create that balance? I mean, you're juggling all the balls at the same time. Your family
So
is important, your health is important, your business is important, but where is the balance, and how we can create that harmony, how we can create that balance?
it's never balanced. It's an integration, right? Okay, for example, you say I've got all this guy, but your fitness is important. So can you put in a goal for the year? The goal is to be able to exercise 30 minutes a day, or maybe just 10 minutes a day, right? We'll start with something as simple as that you don't neglect your fitness as well, right? Because you want to be around for your children, right? You want to be around to see your grandchildren, right? So you always have to make sure that there is a slot, as little as possible, that you set a goal there, right? I can only afford 10 minutes, fine. Let it be a goal for this year that I can do 10 minutes, right? Of course, one year that goal was like to finish a marathon, right? That was a goal that one year, right? And of course, there was a lot of effort then spending in preparing for the marathon, because it's not the 42 kilometers a day, it's the training before the 42 kilometers, right? So that was a goal then. So of course, then there was a lot more emphasis on fitness, not neglecting other things as well, right? But so always remember that all these things are important. Your fitness is so important, right? And whatever is workable, if it's little goals, but be conscious that you set something aside.
Great. For relationships, for like being husband, wife, or where we see like at the beginning, there are lots of challenges where, for example, husband is trying to set up something, and wife
Mhm.
wants his attention 100% all the time. And if that attention is not provided, then like he's not paying attention to me and all that. So uh, how to convince such kind of person and how to like go about with that and deal with that kind of situation?
You're asking me? Okay.
Yeah.
How do I, so that's the thing, right? How do you, I think, have honest conversation about what I need to do, right? And then like, and set goals together as well, right? I was interviewing this guy, which I really enjoyed, Alan Peace. He wrote the book on body language, but he talked about relationships, that everybody set goals for themselves. Couples never set goals for themselves together, right? So so you can sit at every year, you've got your goal, he's got his goal, then you sit down, these are my goals, these are your goals. And then after that, we have to sit down and say, what are our relationship goals? And to have that conversation. I'll be very busy doing this. What can you allocate? Is it once a week, right? As we're building this up, it will change, but we don't have relationship goals. Right, that's one thing I learned. I was listening to it. I said, "Wow, right? We don't have it. We just think that everything will flow. We set goals for ourselves and we forget to set goals together as a couple. There's some things that we need to do together as a couple and to have that conversation. I will do that with my next marriage."
Great. That's good to know. Frida, you were into a business host. You were a business host, and the names that I've mentioned in the beginning of these shows. How was that experience, learning and talking to such great personality, big minds, and big business
Uh,
tycoons, and all that?
oh, that was very interesting. I was Jack Welch was interesting. I'm glad I got to speak to him before he passed on. So I had to ask him about his reputation as Neutron Jack, because there was one time he used to fire the people, right? But it was very energetic, even at his age. He was very energetic. Spoke of a lot of things. Prince Andrew, I met him because he was here in Malaysia for Pitch Palace. So Jack Welch was over the phone. Prince Andrew, I met him. Who else did I meet? Nick Vijucic, the guy with no arms, no legs, right? He was in the studio. I think that was, to me, was one of the most touching because he was very warm. You could feel his energy and his aura and all that, and the compassion in the way he speaks and the way he does that. Julian Assange is interesting because he was on his way to Sweden. So this is all obviously before the saga. And then after that, like 1 year later, oh, this guy, wow. Because I remember that I asked him in the interview and I said, aren't you worried you're going to get arrested? I can't remember the answer, but anyway, I did ask him about that. And he was like, it's about information. Everybody should be aware. Probably something to that effect. If you go to our website, BFM, and just Julian Assange, you should be able to hear that podcast as well. But it was a long time ago. It does, but it's like just interesting that I've met all kinds of people. Mm.
Great. Farida, you are, like 5,000, more than 5,000 interviews. Farida, you took about, like more than 5,000 interviews and all the great personalities. If you want to give an advice to people like me who have just started interviewing, what skills that we need to do, like what kind of questions that we can ask, how we can prepare better ourselves for interviews, how to do networking. I don't know, you were doing the show for your like a radio station, so probably there'll be a team behind you. But people like me or very new in this, what would be your advice?
So it depends. Okay, I guess I'll give you generic advice. As in, depends on the kind of person you're interviewing, right? The kind of person you're interviewing, and for my style, right? When the person gets to come to the studio, or even if not, right, just to have that conversation, like, to warm up first and try to get to know the person as an individual, as a friend. And I always try to crack a joke usually when they come on live, yeah, let me give you a live experience. They're nervous, right? It's live, right? So I would just, just joke about something, and the moment you laugh, right, you relax, right? You
Absolutely.
relax, and given that half an hour before, I always ask them to come half an hour before. So I just want to connect, talk to them as a friend, and so by the time they're in 30 minutes, by the time they get on air, they're talking to their friend. They realize that they're just talking to their friend. I will go through the questions with them, and and some of the things that I will ask them. I will probably ask you the sensitive question or whatever right? And then, so think of a good answer. I will ask you that question, right? But half an hour before, but they feel that they're talking to a friend, right? That's sort of my style. Disarm them. Because if you throw sand at the clam, they close their mouth.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're a good public speaker as well. You did TED Talks as well. What's your advice for public speaking?
Oh, public speaking. Whew. It comes with, you're going to be nervous the first time. That's fine. And you're always going to be nervous, right? And I always tell people, you will always have butterflies in your stomach, but slowly they're flying in formation. It's always good to have a certain amount of tension and nervousness. That's fine. And I guess know your topic, right? Know your topic. I always feel that I don't have some, brilliant presentation charts. I wish I had, but speaking from authenticity, I think that's important. People want to just know that you're authentic about things. Of course, the practical things is like, okay, what is your headline in the back of your head and the back of your mind, and what are the 3 key points I want to get across, right? People always connect better with stories and analogies and all that. Not think of the parables, right? People always remember the parables. So, and if you can connect it with your own life story, it just makes the person feel like you're just like me, right? So I think at the end of the day, I'm not so concerned about how I look or anything of, that comes with practice, but more, how am I making an impact to one person's life in what I'm about to share? And when you've got that as your objective, everything else doesn't matter,
Great. You were into speaking, like hosting shows and all that, and then you move on to writing. So how that emerged as a person, and what was the trigger behind that I need to write a book?
I was with a friend having dinner, and a friend said, "Go write a book." I was like, "Okay, why?" He said, "You've got something to share." I think for me, writing the book is like something to share, right? Something that I felt. And my first book was called PR Yourself. First book. If you go to my website, fredaliu.com, you can buy these books. Yeah, but the reason I wrote that book was in the early days, especially in Malaysia, or just Asian companies in general, right? They're very shy about not talking too much about the company. They feel like I'm boasting, or that Asian thing, right?
Yeah, like we're
or
bragging
they feel
about
like, no. So I met this, like I would have interviewed an SME, and I meet the SME 2 years later, and then they tell me, I've been doing all this. I said, oh, why didn't you tell me this has happened, right? So they don't know how to continue the story. And it's so sad, right? Because I think that's also, and when we've got great Malaysian stories, we've got great stories, business stories coming out here, but if you're not talking about it, no one knows about it. So that was a point I wanted to get across, right? And that was my platform in that sense. So I felt that I needed to write about it. So everything has been a little bit personal in terms of why I write these books, right? There's got to be there's a story behind why I write the books. And it was just another thing that I wanted to try, with the first book is like, so what if it works? So what if it doesn't work? Doesn't matter, but at least I can say I've written a book, right? So it's just little things like that. It's probably one of the goals I have for one of those years, right? Write a book, because why not?
You've written 5 books. Which one is your favorite?
It's like asking which my favorite child.
Yeah,
each has different stories behind it. One of it's a biography, right? I wrote with 2 daughters about their late father. So that was like, I guess a bit more, towards the father. I think as you grow as well, the last book I wrote was a little bit more personal. It's called In Your Skin. And that was exactly the point about people understanding that you define success on your own terms, right? And in that book, I featured different people who were successful in whatever it is. There's one girl called Heidi Kwa, and she works with refugees in Malaysia, called Refuge for the Refugees. And to me, she's successful, right? Not your multimillionaire, not your whatever, but she's been awarded she's been awarded a medal by the Queen Elizabeth, right? And she started her work with refugees at 18 years old, and she's only 26 years old, right?
Wow.
So, you know, like, to me, she's successful. Another friend of mine, Justin Lee, she has a business called the Pit Stop Community Cafe. And what she does is that she feeds the homeless again, right? And she used to have a fancy job as the managing director of a PR company, and I knew her from that. And she decided to do this. To me, that's successful. And so for people to be comfortable in their skin in what they're called to do, right? So I have a lot of friends in business as well, right? And they tell me about their staffing challenges, and I hear all this, right? And I know, I don't think I have the stomach to do that, right? To have these kind of challenges, right? But I admire them that they have been called to do certain things, and we're all called to do different things. I think that was more personal to me, right? And how you define success and to be comfortable in your skin. I know for me, communication is the essence of who I am. How is that relate, whether in a book, on radio, speaking, right? That these are platforms, but I think communication is my essence, and that's me being comfortable in my skin.
Great. Farida, you're also into social works. I believe you work with World Vision and sponsoring a kid.
Yes.
How does it impacted your own life, and what's that program is?
Okay, so World Vision, as you know what World Vision is. Anyway, I've been sponsoring about 4 kids for the last 20 years. Okay, so something that I've been doing for the longest time. You started off with 50 ringgit, which is nothing. Now it's probably about 20 US dollars, right, to sponsor a child, right? So for me, and how I got to be an advocate or an ambassador for them was only just this year, but I've been doing this for the last 20 years. I feel that education is what's going to change a person's life, right? You give everybody a level playing field. If you don't have an education, it's so difficult to change your life. So to me, the basics was having education. And so that's why I've been sponsoring these kids for the last 20 years. And of course, when they called me to be an ambassador, I said, sure, hand and heart is something that I feel so close about. So I'm the advocate for one of their pillars, which is WASH, which is clean water and sanitary hygiene. Now, and of course, it's not so much a problem in Malaysia, but there's some problem probably in India and Pakistan, right? Where because the girls have to go, because there's no clean water, they have to go to the river to collect water. And it's usually the girls, okay? So along the way to collect water, they might get raped, they might get attacked, okay? Because they have to travel to collect water, they don't go to school, right? So by providing clean water to a village, the impact is that the girl gets to go to school, the girl gets safe, right? The girl's in a safe environment. I mean, boys and girls, right? When World Vision comes in, they come and help support a village, right? I'm just saying from a girl's perspective. So by doing something like this, something as simple as this can impact a person's life, right? And education, like I said, is the byproduct of having clean water. And we take it for granted, right? Here in Malaysia, we can turn on a tap. UAE, you can turn on a tap. But there's so many countries in the world that don't have the basics, right?
That's true. And we really appreciate your work on that. And I hope it will change the world in a better direction and
one person at a time.
Absolutely. That's great. One of the things that you mentioned about the wheel of life was the fun part. What's your fun of life? How you spend?
My fun has been taken away from me. I can't travel. So my fun is also very important. So I love traveling, and when I travel, I try to say, I will try to fit a run into it. So I ran in Kazakhstan because, never been to a country with a stan. I must have missed Pakistan. So I went to Kazakhstan, did a run there. I went to Turkey. And so in Turkey, the bridge across the Bosphorus, right? I ran from Asia to Europe, right? Because it's across 2 continents,
wow.
Although it's a very short bridge, but who cares? You can't say you run across 2 continents, right? I went to Croatia last year, and it was running 21 kilometers in a vineyard. and every stop was with water. They also give you wine at every stop. So it's just, so it's, you get your exercise, you get your travel, you get your fun, right? So these are the things and you make time for fun, right? I think that's so important. Fun cannot be by the way. Fun has got to be, fitted into your life, right? If you don't make time for fun, when? And I think I spent many years before this, like one day, right? And I'm so glad I traveled so much last year, right? It's like payback because this year I don't get to travel.
So you said that now because the traveling, you can't travel because of the pandemic. How you're doing this fun element right now while at your home?
Well, now we can do, travel within the country. So I'll do a little bit of that. See, in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to take my son up to the Highlands and just spend some time together. But there are other ways as well. Like for me, which is so weird.
Tell us about Malaysia. How is it Malaysia as a tourist country?
Oh, Malaysia is fantastic. You must come to Malaysia. It's a beautiful tropical country. There is the mountains, there is the sea, there's East Malaysia where I'm from on the island of Borneo. So you get your orang-utans, you get your the highest mountain in Southeast Asia, beautiful waters, great for diving and all that. So it is really, really beautiful, right? So I'm very privileged to be, in having grown up in the jungles, right? Really, well, not literally in the jungle, but big jungle area. It is amazing. Malaysia is beautiful. I've been to every state. There are 13 states. I've been to 12. I haven't been to one. So I have seen pretty much the whole of Malaysia. I'm proud to say that. It's also modern enough, right? But it's definitely not that expensive to live in. It is getting to be pricey. We have challenges just like any other country. Politically, let me not go there. So yeah, there's some challenges going on right now. So it is really amazing of our history, as in we have like there's a Malay population, there's a large number of Chinese and Indian population that's in West Malaysia. Of course, in East Malaysia, we have a lot of the tribal groups as well, right? And we've grown up being multicultural, right? So and that is such an amazing thing, right? So the ability for us to connect, I think, as Malaysians, sometimes we forget that, is that we've grown up with at least 2 other races, right? And we just see ourselves and we appreciate our differences. Of course, for political reasons, they're using race and religion to go pit against each other. But generally, that has what has made this country so unique, that we live so well together. And we come in and appreciate. So every festival is important, right? Whether it's in we have Diwali and we have the Raya, Idul Fitri, which has just passed, right? So these things are all at Christmas, Chinese New Year, we celebrate it and we enjoy it, right? So it is amazing. I think we have probably the most number of public holidays in the world, this country, at least top 5 in the world. We have so many public holidays.
Wow, I love public holidays. So it's a great country for people like me, yeah?
Yeah, so we get a lot of public holidays. Too many, I think. But anyway, it's a beautiful country. It's hot, but I love the heat.
Great. And
not UAE hot, humid hot. Hot.
And you mentioned that just now it was raining, so we miss rains over here in UAE. We don't have rains, especially in summer season when it's required. We don't have rains. We have rain in winter, and that too because of like cloud seeding that the government does. Other than that, if we were to see the rains, we have to travel and go to the places where there are rains in the world. Which book you're writing right now?
Okay, during the MCO, I wrote 40,000 words, 1,000 words a day. I'm trying to work with a publisher right now to see whether they'll take it on, but I don't know. So the current book that I'm writing about, and I have got a friend who told me to do something else, but anyway, I'm talking about life stages. Actually, my book is talking about life stages and understanding that life stage is not determined by age, right? And that you're going to go through different life stages and understanding what you can do at that life stage and enjoy the most out of it, but also keeping an eye on the next life stage and not be caught with the life stage. A lot of people like with the empty nest syndrome, right? They're not ready for it because, they just think whether they quit their job and they're, and they taking care of their family, and then suddenly, you're right, the children leaves. You're not prepared for that next stage, right? And also so even that time when I was taking care of my son and I was working at IBM, that was the time I took up a course in coaching. That was when I went for NLP courses. That was when I took, not knowing what I'll do with it, but just prototyping and learning something new, right? And I'm so glad I did, right? So during that period, doesn't mean it has to be stagnant. He's a priority, but also at that time, continue to learn and continue to taking on the job at BFM was another life stage because he was going to primary school. And I thought, okay, and like most of the bills in the house are pretty settled. Okay, I think I can handle a 30% pay cut and take on this risk anyway. So there was a different life stage for me, right? So understand these life stages.
Great. So what's your next prototype, if I were to ask?
Oh, so design thinking, and I'm also thinking of embarking a course on getting myself certified as a futurist. So, and understand, to understand this is to happen, right? It's like, could we have predicted it? Actually, Bill Gates did predict it, but like understanding how society will change and how leadership will change. So I'm very interested to understand the mechanics or the method. I need to understand the process behind looking at the future. So so design thinking this year. I've got money set. Of course you got to save up, and then probably the next step is understanding to be a social futurist. That's studying. Personally, I'm very involved in, I've done some videos. I love social enterprises. There's something that's very close to my heart as well. I understand that if you want to help a particular area, it's about sustainability, right? That the business it needs to be run like a business. So social enterprises is something that I personally like to promote. I'm doing some work around sustainability and SDG goals. I think that's important. I think people are more awake right now. And like I said, when I talk about world vision, one thing that you do that, clean water is one of the SDGs, right? But the impact by providing clean water, it has so many impacts in other sustainability areas. It works towards gender equality, it works towards other things as well. So these are things that are very close to my heart. So I'm good. So I'm not even thinking career radio or whatever, but just where it goes, whatever sort of like gives me gets me curious, I'll embark on it.
Thank you so much, Freda. We had a wonderful time with you. And before we sign off, a final message from your side to our audience today.
Final message. Stay curious, man. Like Steve Jobs said, stay curious. Have a growth mindset. If you don't know what it is to have a growth mindset, read the book. There are a lot of articles about it. It's so important, especially now, right? When you think it is the end of the world, it feels like the end of the world. Having a growth mindset will keep you positive.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, Freda. It was lovely having you with us. So we were with this, we sign off. We had Freda Liu with us all the way from Malaysia, author, media personality, journalist, TEDx speaker, involved in social causes. And I hope we've learned a lot. I mean, if I were to take at least one message out of it and change my life and change someone else's life, I think this has paid off for every one of us. Maybe it's design thinking, maybe it's about involved and changing even one person's life as a vision, world vision, or like being a futuristic, or looking after the wheel of life and balancing or integrating or harmony and all those things. So great, we had a great discussion. Take care of yourself, stay blessed, and we'll meet you soon. Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank